Hi everyone, it's Wendy. I'm gonna do a mini album. I have an idea in mind, and we're gonna see if it's gonna work. Um, some of the things I'm using is hockey stick tape in 2 different widths. I might use these. They're 7 Gypsies. I found them at Tuesday morning. They're 4x6 folder things. I've used these in other things before, so I might repurpose this. And I'll show you how I do that. Or I might use some of these pocket pages from my storybook. I have one that has these 2x2. I'll have to find it, but basically I'm trying to make something that would work for a male or a female. So gender neutral. And I have this paper here by Kaiser Craft. It's called Beach Shack. And it comes with a coordinating sticker piece. Don't know where I got it from. I got it from somewhere. And what I thought was neat about this, if you're familiar with, I can't think of who it is. Is it Echo Park? It's not Doodlebug. Anyways, one of the companies, they always put a saying on theirs. Well, this Kaiser Craft one has sayings on the back on our sheet, so I thought I'd save those and use those to decorate. In case you're wondering what this is one of my albums, or my design book. I take and I write down the different albums or things that I have made or want to make, and I put them in here, and that way I have a written record, and it tells me where it is from, and if it's off a YouTube video, who did the YouTube video. And this one's almost full, and I have to finish watching a video by Shelley Geigel to get that one. Usually I just write down the measurements so I know what it is. And this is another one I started because I couldn't find that one. So I started another one, but it works out. I got a couple from, this is for a couple swaps I'm doing. The pet folio and the desk folio. And I've got the dimensions here, and I wrote them down, who they're by and that. And I also put notes on when I have to have the pictures and when I have to mail them out. But this one is actually going to be my design and a take off. I'm going to use a binding and method by Laura Dennison, using her T-square binding and hockey stick tape. And she actually has a video on how to use it, and it's called Hockey Stick Tape. And I'll try and remember to link that in the bottom here. Now you can find this if you have a place that sells hockey equipment and gear. They have the stick tape. It comes in different colors. You can find it in some different widths. This one, I don't remember how wide it is. I think it's about 7/8 of an inch is this smaller one. And then this one, which I found on Amazon, is like 1 3/8 inch. I kind of wish they did 1 1/2, but I'll have to keep looking. I've been getting the black because it seems to go with almost anything, and it kind of makes a statement in that. So I'm going to use this for the cover and for the pages themselves, and like I said, I'm using Laura Dennison's T-square binding, and it's kind of interesting. And you can see the color of the paper I'm using, which is this dark blue. I think it's called navy. Yeah, it's navy. I get this at Michael's, and it's 65 pounds. And it's smooth. I prefer the smooth compared to the texture. So that's the things I have that I'm thinking of incorporating. And as I go, I will write down comments on my sheet so that if I want to recreate the album, I can. The other thing that I am using is I have this Martha Stewart punch. It's called Diamond Fence, and I wanted to add some trim to it. And I thought, you know, when you go to the beach and you see these beach houses, sometimes they have these little fences around them. So I thought this would be a good one to add some decoration. And it is a deep edge punch, and it punches the whole thing out. So this will be like a trim. As you can see there, it's punching. So this will be a trim to add. One other thing, if you're going to use the stick tape, is you want some sort of glass mat. I have a Rear Memory Keepers one. You can find them at any major box store pretty much, and you can use a coupon on them. If you don't have one, go to your Dollar Tree and buy a square cutting board. Just $1. I mean, they're small. They're about 6 by 6, but it will work. Okay, but you kind of need the glass to work with the stick tape. It's very, very sticky, and you'll see why when I work on this. So let's get started. I took and I cut out stuff ahead of time. And I'm using my new cropper hopper that I got at my retreat at Kaiser Craft Creations. Now, when you're cutting your covers, especially if you are using the T-square binding with the stick tape, you need to add to your cover width. This is actually a 3/8 inch spine here, or not spine, hinge. If you want to make it a 1/2 inch, you can make it a 1/2 inch. You just need to adjust the width of the paper that you're using, and I'll figure that out. But this basically will give you, with the two, a 1/2 inch space in between. But this is a 3-inch flange for the hinge. So you need to take that into account when you measure your covers. Now, the other thing, and you know, I don't think I've ever heard people mention this. Let me get a big piece of chipboard. I'm using black in this because I don't know why. I just felt like it. One thing I noticed, and I've been trying to pay more attention to it when I do my albums and that, is that chipboard bends. So if you notice, when I hold it this way, it bends. Okay. But when I turn it this way, it doesn't bend as much. So when you're making an album, you want, this way is okay for the width, but for the height, you want the least bendy part. So take that into consideration when you're cutting your chipboard. Think about, okay, this is the bendy part. So if I want my book to be like 6 by 6. Okay, so I'm going to cut 6 this way, and then I'll cut 6 this way, and I'll make sure and mark that this will be the top. So if I was making a 12 by 12 album, I would take and make this here my width, and I would make it go this way, which is the least bendy, my height. Because when you think about it, these are standing on edge, and you really don't want it to bend. Whereas if you did it this way, look what happens. You get the weeble wobbles. So when you're making your, pay attention to the bends, okay? It sounds terrible. But that's what I did. Now, so for my album, I actually had to make an adjustment here. My width is actually 7 inches by 7.5, and I have 2 of them. I was going to go 6 and 7/8. I thought, oh, let's not deal with 8s. Let's deal with without the 8s. So I just extended it to 7 inches. Now, to figure out my spine, I knew it had to be 7.5 inches tall. The other thing I had to figure out, and I'm going to zoom you in for this, is I took some scratch paper. I knew I wanted 5 pages. Reason why I did that was I pulled out 2 for the cover, and there were 10 pages left. Now they're back and front. It's okay. I can do 5 pages with this size of album. Okay. So what I figured was I always like to have a 1/4 inch, if not a 1/2 inch. This is the edge of my spine. So let me bring that. This is the edge of my spine, right here and right here. This is right before the little space that leads to the cover. Now you leave that little space. Okay, I like to have a 1/4 of an inch. Now, I might do bigger, especially if I plan on doing something big or something bulky on the covers or on the first and the last page. This one I thought, oh, I'm probably going to do something bulky. So I'm doing a 1/2 inch on either side. So I've got a 1/2 inch in. Okay. I know I want 5 pages. So let me do something a little better. All right. So this is my cover. This is my gap. And I have the same thing on this side. I have my cover. I have my gap. And this is my spine. Okay. Now, because I plan on doing a little bulky on the cover, on the inside of the covers, I'm going to leave a 1/2 inch space. So this is a space, and it's a 1/2 inch in. This is just my thought process. Then I know I want 5 pages. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, I know with this T-square binding, with how it's set up currently, I have a 1/2 inch space in between. Okay, so oops, don't need that one. So I know between my pages I have 4 spaces between the first page and the 5th page. So that's 2 inches. Plus I want the 1/2 inch. This is not focusing right. Sorry about that. Let me put autofocus on. Okay. Come on now. Focus. Let me bring something that will focus on. All right. Anyways, okay. Sorry about this. All right, but anyways, there, you can see what I'm doing. So I have my cover, my gap. This is the space between the edge of my spine, and I want a 1/2 inch in on each side. Then I have my 5 pages. I have a gap of a 1/2 inch in between because of how large the bottom of the hinge is. So that's 2 inches there, plus a 1/2 inch, that's 3. Guess what? My spine's 3 inches. So if you need clarification for that, let me know. Okay, I'm going to take you out a little bit. You're not going to be able to see it, but I will hold it up. One thing I did was I marked my spine because this won't be seen once I'm done. So I marked my 1/2 inch in on each side, and I marked my 1/2 inch spaces. So there's page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have my spaces. The other thing I did on the other side, I am using this 1 3/8 inch tape, stick tape, to put my to put my cover together. Believe me, this stick tape is sticky. It collects everything. So what I did was I marked in, I don't remember now, 5/8 of an inch. Because 1 3/8 is hard to divide. 1 1/4 is 5/8 of an inch. And you have to take into account the gap, which I didn't do. Okay, so I'll think I'll remeasure this. I think I will. That's the nice thing about doing this in pencil. And then you're talking to yourself, but your animals are looking at you. We had to take Poppy to the vet today. It was so funny because we normally take both Poppy and Mittens together because then we do one trip at a time. One trip. Okay, and I'm measuring 1/2 inch. Okay, so I'm doing a 1/2 inch on the spine. And I'm doing this so I know where to line up my tape. And last year when we took them, Mittens has a hard time traveling. She wants out. She doesn't like being in her kennel. And we don't want her loose in the car because she has a tendency to get underfoot. You know, you're driving. And needless to say, she gets messy in her kennel. So when we get to the vets, we have to have kitty wipe down claws. So we wipe her down. We change out the pad in her kennel. We take her in. She gets her stuff done. We put her back in her kennel. She comes home, and we have to give her a bath. If you've ever given a cat a bath, especially one that does not like baths, it's hilarious. So last year we had talked to the vet about getting her some kitty tranquilizers. So the vet tech that was in there with us remembered Mittens and her issues. We had a different vet this time. We go up to the local military installation and use their vets. So sometimes they change after a couple of years. But anyways, She said, yeah, no problem. And they go, well, you know, it could be because of Poppy, because of how hyper. I said, she's fine in the car. She sits down. She's not all over the place. They go, are you kidding? I said, no, she's perfectly behaved in the car. I go, oh, maybe it's because she's in here. I said, I don't know. No, Mittens just doesn't like her thing. All right. So we've got our spine cut. We've got our covers cut. So we're going to take and start working on this. And we are going to wrap our covers with our pattern paper. And if you don't want to use pattern paper, you don't have to. It's a personal preference. Now, I need something to hold this down. Okay, let me get some washi tape. And the only reason why I'm using some washi tape to hold this down is because I don't want it to move. So the nice thing about this We Are Memory Keepers mat is it has a grid on it. If you don't have one, can't find it, like I said, a cutting board from a dollar store will work. You can always print out a grid and tape it up underneath. Make sure you get the clear one if you're going to do that. If you get the ones that have the printed pattern on them, soak it in extreme hot water, changing it out a couple times, and you can peel that off. Believe me, I know you can. I've done it. So what I am going to do is I'm going to, whoops, okay, I need to put this where you can see it. I am going to take and get this lined up on my board so you can see what I'm doing on the top part. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just using some washi tape on the bottom and a couple pieces on the side just to hold it in place. This is just so it doesn't move. And this washi tape is not very sticky. I have painter's tape somewhere. I need to find that. Okay. So, now like I said, this is 1 3/8 inch wide. I could use this smaller one if I had a smaller, if I was doing a smaller book with a smaller spine. But I'm going to be a little generous here. And I would suggest nonstick scissors for cutting this. And yes, my piece is bigger. But then all I have to do is line the edge up right there. Press it down. Okay. Let's save that tape. I'm going to need it later. Then I can take and now I'm going to use my ruler because I want to line this up, and I am going to wrap this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line my ruler up with the edge of this, of my spine chipboard. I'm also going to take and make it so that I can do a 1/4 inch gap. Make sure this is going the right way. Check it. Oh, that's the bendy part. I want this way. Okay. Now, Or if you don't feel comfortable doing it, and actually I don't either, I'm going to measure this. So I do a 1/4 inch. I have approximately 1/2 inch, 5/8 of an inch. I'm going to set that to the side. I'm going to take my spine and I'm going to measure 5/8 of an inch. So that may make my gap a little shorter, but that's okay, because the gap is whatever you like, and I am perfectly fine with it being less than 1/4 of an inch. So while I've got this here, I'm going to mark the 5/8 of an inch on both of these. So that's all I did, was mark a line 5/8 of an inch, and that gives me a guide. Now I'm going to move this up. I'm going to move you out. There we go. And again, I'm going to line this up on my mat. I'm going to do some securing. Remember, this is just so it doesn't move all over the place. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. And then I am just going to take and to make sure that I can get, I'll lay my ruler there. And if you notice, I'm folding back this one edge. So that I can take and line my tape up. And because I know where my edge is, okay, I got it. Let's see if I can do this. Lay it down, go slow. Oops, that didn't go right. You do have, and the nice thing is, you do have some wiggle room with this tape. As you can see, it's not going where I want it, and I picked it up and replaced it. All right, I got one side on. And I have a nice little gap. I don't know if you can see it. I have a nice gap in there. So all I'm going to do now is just wrap this here. Now, if you are worried about your paper cutting, and that, actually, because this is black, I really don't need to wrap it. I can just layer my paper on and use it as a border. That's the nice thing about black chipboard. All right, so I am going to do the other side of my spine. I'm expecting a visitor anytime soon. For one thing, I've talked about her. And another thing, she knows I have treats in here for her. Okay, so again, this is the 1 3/8 inch. I'm going to be generous. And if you really wanted to do this, you could take it, just do it all the way in, do a piece long enough, but I'm not going to. Okay, put that down. My printer is, oh, it's my husband. I thought my printer was possessed. Okay. So I'm going to lay that there. Yes, honey, I'm recording.
Yes, I got it.
I'll make something for dinner in a A little bit, huh?
Where'd Poppy go to?
I have no clue. Check on my chair. Check on the recliner.
Sure.
I'm gonna line my ruler up. I'll fold this corner back. I know where my, well, that's not even straight. Make sure you're straight. If you have a grid mat like I do underneath this, you can do that, use that too, but I just find this easier. Okay. So let me put my ruler there. Okay. Line my and just you line up the edge. Okay. Oops. Oh, come on now. You're behaving, and now you're not. All right. I think I'm going to do is tack down my spine. Let's try it this way. It figures I would have issues now. All right. But this is the process. If you're new to making albums and that, believe me, this is a process. And it's a learn as you go process. There's no right or wrong way. It's, you gotta just do it. Okay, there we go. So what I'm going to do is line up this edge, line up that, line up this edge. Make the adjustments I need. Okay. Whoops. Line up just a little bit. I think if I was standing up, it would be easier. Okay. All right, that's good. And just a little. Okay. Sometimes if you don't press this flat, you'll get a little wrinkle in there. You don't want that in your spine. That's why. So yes, the hockey stick tape can be a little fussy, but the end results are really nice. There we go. And as I was saying, if you make this long enough, you can do it all in one piece. I chose not to. Because I'll just cut a piece. And I have this 1/2 inch guide right here. So long as I use that to guide my tape, it's going to be pretty much centered. Okay. Cut another piece.